What's going on, folks? Welcome back to Bois, your one-stop shop for all your energy drink reviews and performance talks. I'm Christian,
I'm Brian.
and we are the Bois. And this is going to be kicking off 2026, I believe. We did that Q&A to end 2025, answered your guys' questions. It was super fun. And we're kicking off 2026 with a little bit of something different, but it's something we've been talking about for a while. We're going to do a book review. So we got Bois Book Club going on here to start off 26 right. And the book we picked was something that I had read close to when it first came out, and I know Brian had been looking forward to it, and I was like, wow, that was really good. I have no problem reading, listening to that book again. And we are going to go over just some stuff we like from The Creative Act, A Way of Being, and this is by a guy, Rick Rubin, someone that I hadn't really heard of before I read the book, but I had known his work like inadvertently because he's produced. This guy's a music producer, and he's a very famous music producer. We were just thumbing through his discography right before we hit record, and this guy might have like one of the best of all time as far as like who he's produced, and certainly like the range of genres that this guy has produced. It's been spanning between hip hop, heavy metal, rock, country, pop, and kind of everywhere in between. So yeah, we're gonna do a book review, guys.
Yeah, just kind of setting the stage on Rick Rubin. Like anyone who knows a lot of or is interested in music or anything about that, like there's obviously very large labels out there. There's like Interscope, there is Ruthless, or what now would be like Death Row Records, stuff like that. Well, Def Jam Records is basically co-created by Rick Rubin. Rick Rubin has producing credits on some of the largest songs, I would argue, in human history. With, he's got the entire My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy album with Kanye on there. He has producing credits with Linkin Park, Metallica, Rage Against the Machine, LL Cool J, Run DMC. I mean, he helped produce It's Tricky by Run DMC. He's got Adele, Kesha. It's insane. The Dixie Chicks. I mean, that's the Johnny Cash. I hurt myself today
By Mr. Chow.
by Mr. Chow. Greatest rendition.
Yeah, and this guy's been
But
on. He's been on the Huberman podcast. He's been on Rogan. I think it's interesting because it's definitely like we've all heard part of the work, some of his work. Like he's produced like 99 Problems by Jay-Z was another big song that he helped produce. I know
Kendrick
he's been on,
Lamar.
yep, some of Travis Scott's more recent stuff, Utopia. We've definitely heard his work, but like I feel like you don't really look into producers as much. Obviously, like when you think of famous producers, I think of like Dr. Dre. Um, that's really about the main
I
one
really
I
think of
think of.
Dr. Dre.
I think of Dr. Dre, and like I feel like I think of Dr. Dre because of like Beats headphones, just as much as his producing career. Um, I think of that other like yeah, that's really about it. So you think of the artist, but you don't really think of the people behind the songs and who produces them. So I think this, obviously he was well known in the music industry, but I think this book and, being on those podcasts obviously kind of brought him to the forefront of maybe people that don't really look into producing as much, maybe like the younger minds that just kind of listen to the music and don't really look super deep into who was behind, producing the record. But obviously he was famous before. He's even more well known now because of, his podcast appearances and this book that we're going to get into, which is a really good read. Would definitely recommend. And also read a lot of books. We both really like these ones. It's like the threaded cover. Like it doesn't have like an actual book cover, like the paper, which I kind of like. I think the books, when you take the book cover off, honestly look way more sick without it. Like obviously you're not going to get like the logo and all that stuff, but this is like that threaded cover. If you guys have ever read any of the Farnham Street Mental Model books, it's very similar. It's kind of just this neutral gray color with, I'm assuming this is like a record, but
Yeah.
if you read the book, you would probably say that you could interpret this as whatever you want.
Oh, here we go.
Yep. And then the back is same thing. So props to the on the book cover as far as the details go. Big fan.
Yeah, a lot of good details from cover to cover, obviously, but there's something to be said about a good book cover. You know,
Sets
it's
the
just the way
tone.
it does set the tone, and you can judge a book by its cover. I don't care what anyone says. Like at least
Hmm.
an actual book that you're going to read, like the more like those abstract kind of books, you're probably going to get into like very creative things, or it's going to like mental models is a great example. Mental models is going to be one of those ones that it's open for such interpretation that the goal is essentially to get you to think differently about what is going on or what's in it. So I'm a big fan. But yeah, we can kind of start in here.
Yeah, I'm gonna pop a top real quick though. I don't
Yeah,
want this. Obviously, I want the book to be the star of the show, but I got a Lucky Lemon Gorilla Mind. I haven't tried this flavor. I know it's been out for a long time. It used to be just a Vitamin Shop exclusive, but now you can kind of get it. I wouldn't say anywhere, but pick this up at Iowa Strength. Shout out Chris. So I'm a pop top so we can get dialed in and review this book. Oh
pop
yeah,
that top.
man! I
I'm
see the
sipping on.
smoke coming out the top.
Give me a sip on that. I'm so jealous.
Oh yeah, baby.
It's like
That's
a, it's,
good.
it's like a lemon drop rain, just with
Yeah.
more nootropics. It's good, man.
Hell yeah. It's
I'm
gonna
just
be a
sipping
good
on
day.
I'm just sipping on black coffee. I'm in the energy drink equivalent of a food desert.
That sounds terrible.
It's rough, man. You know, the land of gas stations, but they all carry the same like four energy drinks.
Yeah. Come on, quick star, quick trip. You got to pick it up.
Yeah.
That's
So
the
my one
KT.
complaint, for KT is I need a larger energy drink selection for them.
Yeah. No, this is hitting on a gloomy day in Northeast Iowa. It looks like shit outside. Um, absolutely like foggy, like slushy, sloppy rain.
um. Oh crap! I just hit another. That'll be perfect for the next rewind. But
Yeah. We're trying to say a little bit less, guys, because on our rewind, that was the two main themes was us laughing, which I'm all
and
for. The
yeah,
second was us saying like idiots. So
yeah, we gotta
you gotta be
clean that
better.
up.
Yeah, we gotta step up the public speaking skills.
So kind of going through the book, there's a lot of like lessons that it tries to teach you, not just like a chapter, but like a theme. And one of the themes that I really liked is it's one of the earliest ones that he hits on, and it's like the creativity is fundamental it's a fundamental aspect of being a human being, which I think that's really interesting when you think about it in the examples that he kind of chose. But essentially it's that everyone is creative. This isn't like hey, there's doers and there's dreamers and there's thinkers, where everyone always that's where everybody typically goes, where it's like you're either going to be the right side of the brain or the left side of the brain. And some people are meant to be artists and musicians and this that, and some are going to be mathematicians and whatever, because they're either very structured or they're very unstructured. This is saying, you know, it's 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 not a difficult process, but everybody is creative in some way, shape, or form. It exhibits in different behaviors on how they do this. Um, crap. But what I was thinking of is I kind of thought like that kind of made me think on that, where it's like I think of like a caveman, right? And Rick Rubin, hey, guy's a genius. He does look like a caveman, uh, but I was thinking like a caveman. They don't really you wouldn't they're in like that. I mean, that very bottom level of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They're looking for safety, shelter, and food. But at all of it, they are creative because they had to learn to be innovative and create new weapons, create things, and start to build and prosper. They had to get new weapons. They had to find new ways to hunt. They had to make fire. They had to do this, that, and the other. Like the creativity just exhibits itself in the behaviors that you're doing in order to innovate to either survive or be successful in what's around you. So like for me, like I look at that and I kind of turn it on its head again one more time, like bring it back to us, where it's like you there's kind of two schools of thought with strength and conditioning, sports performance, to where people will be like, you're either very structured and everything is very diligently programmed, or you're kind of like always experimenting. But the creativity happens every single day, whether it's how you interact or how you want your session to feel, or it's how you build your program to fit the needs of what you're looking for. Like there is a very creative process when it is in there. We just don't acknowledge it, or we kind of essentially put it on the back burner and in the backhand of the mind instead of understanding that it is a very creative process. We've all sat in front of a computer and tried to program for a couple of hours. And sometimes it just doesn't work because we're just not in that mindset. But it is a creative thing.
Hmm. Yeah, another thing, a theme that I took pretty early on in the book as well, and I think he just flat out says this is all everything that's in this book. He says use what's helpful and let go of the rest because everyone kind of works different, and I think that's something that I really took from the book is the acceptance of, I wouldn't say like a lack of structure, but I'm contrasting this with what we do for work. S&C, like you said, it's a lot of times it is very structured and very like a certain way to do it. And I think another something with creativity is if you're trying to force it in like a rigid box, you're probably not going to get very good results when it comes to creative work, creative thoughts, being able to think outside of the box and just follow that curiosity. So I think that's something that coaches or really anyone where a lot of jobs are very structured and regimented, and just kind of opening up your mind to, okay, yeah, you want to use what's helpful from what other people tell you and what you learn, but you don't need to follow everything to a T. Obviously there's things that you probably want to follow and principles that you want to adhere to, but over time I think you need to be able to, how many videos have we seen of the perfect morning routine or the perfect productivity routine or my like desk setup. Yeah, that stuff's cool to see. I think that stuff's cool to see to get ideas from other people, but I would never, whenever I've tried to like follow that stuff to a T, I feel like we've all been there. Like it just doesn't feel natural. You might
Yeah.
find one thing that you take, um, like for example, I know a lot of people will do the New Year's resolutions, and I think it's good intentions for sure. Every time I've done those, I just haven't. I've
Stuck
followed,
with it.
yeah, like or like I just never even look at it again. And for me, like the thing I've found is like all the New Year's like and year end review things that people say ask yourself these 10 questions going into the new year, and it's all just been way too long for me. Like I literally need like 1 to 3 things that I really want to focus on, and then that's it.
And hone
That's
in
it.
on that.
Yeah, and then be like, if I can't keep it like in my immediate memory, it's going to be too complicated. Like I need 1 to 3 things that I really want to like focus on, or better yet, like habits that I want to try to cultivate in the coming months or whatever. And you don't have to wait till the new year to do that, obviously. But that's I think that's a good example of using what's helpful and letting go of the rest, because you can get real caught up in trying to, then it's not creative. You're just copycatting people, right?
Yeah. And the other thing with that too is, he touches on this a lot within there. And after reading the book, I was like, oh, let me watch this video because he had a video with Kendrick. Um, but it's like having habits with essentially having structure, but being very open to the external possibilities of things breaking that structure.
Mm-hmm.
So, what he kind of touches on is like having healthy discipline and habits, or like a routine, and in a routine in a sense, not necessarily a morning routine, but it's like, hey, like for him, he's usually going to the studio at the same time, or he's eating lunch,
Right.
or doing this, or now that he's like working out and taking care of himself, when he gets up, he does a sauna, he does, go work out, and then it allows him to feel in a better mood to then start his creative process. So he wants to stick to that routine. But what he's not going to do is, say an artist wants to come talk to him or come work in a session with him, and they're like, well, you need I want to be there at 8 a.m. or whatever. He's not going to be like, no, I have my routine. You have to be there later. He's going to say, well, this probably works for them in their
Hmm.
creative process. I'll shift mine around to see how we can mend the two together. So it's one of those ideas where it's like a good structure in your day is very healthy, because then you're just not completely open to the whim of the world, and you can find a flow state naturally by having that routine, and you can have that subconscious behavior to where it overtakes, so you can spend your energy and your creative thoughts and your you can be present in those things that you really care about because the routine is so set up. But when something comes along to where it might break that routine, or it'll be a little bit different than what you normally do, don't say no to that. He's not a big no sayer. It's one thing I kind of picked up on in the book is he's not really like, no, we're not doing that. He's embracing the imperfections. He's saying like, well, they mess up on something, and he's like, well, what if we kept that in? Instead of just saying get rid of it or this or that. It's very like, once you're in and you're in that flow state, go with it. See what might come out of it, because it might be something worth chasing. It's a weird way to look at it. I love it. I wish I
Yes.
could do that more. That's probably one thing I would love to do.
Yeah, I think I noticed is he's not real big on binary rules. Really, the only thing he's like real binary about is the fact that
There's no
if you're an
binary
art,
rules.
yeah, yeah, or like, I mean, he's pretty clear about like, oh, if you're an artist, like you create work and the work is there. The point is to create the best work possible. It's not
Hmm.
about what you get in return out of it. The goal is to just create the best work possible at the end of the day. But other than that, a lot of it he does leave up to you know whether it's personal interpretation or just using what works for you. I know, like for me personally, some things like I wrote that down, like what, like for daily schedules and routines, like something for me is like depending on the time of the year and depending on how much free time I have. I know like right now we're in kind of a little down period, so I can really kind of take my time and make my day like essentially look exactly how I want it. So like I'll wake up, usually go on a walk first thing in the morning, get a little fresh air. Then I'll come back, read a little bit, um, or just do some sort of learning. And then I'll usually work out. Uh, and then the rest of my day is kind of whatever else I have planned. But there's a few things that are like themes in my life that definitely help me, I would say, just stay not crazy. Like I know like walks are something for me, like just slow, mindless walks. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, whether I'm listening to a podcast, whether I'm listening to music, whether I'm not listening to anything at all, or whether I'm on a phone with someone. Just a nice walk, either at the beginning or even the end of the day, is something that is usually in my routine. Obviously, working out is in there. And I think it's how you structure your day too. I was fortunate enough to be on the Iowa Strength podcast the other day with Chris, and we were talking a little bit about what are some are you a morning, or are you a morning person, or are you like a night person? I'm like, I feel like I'm a morning person usually, just because I know whatever happens, like if I get something good done in the morning and the rest of my day goes to shit, at least I had one good thing that like had me going, versus if I start my day later and my day just is shit the whole day, it's tough to kind of come back from that. So I think you made a good point. You don't want to be so rigid in your routine where if one thing goes wrong, you're like, ah, fuck, everything's ruined. Like you want to be, which I've definitely been there before, like so like structured where if something goes wrong, it's not even that the day goes bad, it's that you're just irritated and you ruin it for yourself. Um, and you
It's
kind
like,
of get in the mindset of like, I need everything to be perfect, versus I think what I do a better job of nowadays is, yeah, there's things that I prefer to have in order. But if something goes off the rails or something unexpected happens, I'm more likely to just kind of like lean into it. Or I think to myself, well, like if you can get if you get thrown off task, look at it as a challenge to kind of focus back up. And having a little bit of variability here now and then is going to help make you more resilient. I mean, we know that in training, and I don't think it's much different from your daily
life.
routine, or if you're, yeah, life in general. So
And
You can't
You're-
live in a controlled like lab setting. You can't expect for that to be your whole life, and it is. That's not really going to be a life you're probably going to want to live.
yeah, and that kind of goes to like another earlier point in the book is like he says, everything kind of has its time. That's a one that's one quote that he kind of put in there. And I think the way I'm interpreting him kind of saying this is that like, you might be really into this, kind of chase this for right now, or go all in on this, unexpected moment, let the inspiration strike you. But what I kind of look at this as like everything has its time. You can have your routine set up, especially in like the context of this. You can have your routine set up to where like, at 9 o'clock or, early morning, you try to hit your lift, but something might come up. That something may be important enough to be that's time in this
Hmm.
sense to where you just kind of bump it back and you kind of worry about that. So I think it's almost like your day, definitely not to get super uh I don't know, dream catchery, hippy dippy, but you got 24 hours in a day. If you know that something has to be dedicated for 8 hours of your day is, a job, the rest of it can fit in around it. Working out in the morning or having to push it to the afternoon or eating three of your meals. You might be able to eat two of them closer together because something's come up. Like being more fluid in the aspect of like, I have this to-do list of stuff that I want to get done in my day. They can get done at any point in time. This is where they'll probably fit. And just being okay with that going in there will likely probably make you less stressed. At first, it'll probably make you more stressed because you're like, I want to get XYZ done. These are the appointment times I've set in my heads, blah, blah, blah. But doing so will allow you to just be a little more fluent and be like, it'll happen. This will happen. I can go here. I can get this done. It allows you to be spending less mental energy, quote unquote, onto that stuff and worrying about it. Because if you're worrying about it, you're gonna have to worry about it twice. You have to worry about it when it happens, and you're gonna worry about it right when you find out about it. So just worry about it when it happens. It's that kind of thing. And I think it's just that allows him in that sense, at least from again, this entire book is upon perception. It is your interpretation to how he is going to tell his story. But for me, I'm looking at him like that's probably why he's at peace a lot because it's like I can just do this. This is a non-binary structure of time. He's very based on that. It's very go with the flow of have this, but like be fluid to move along. So I can see a lot of him at peace with his life because he's just like I can get to that. Well, I'll just do that later. Well, I can do that now. But it's the same productivity within the same day. But he's set up, I think he's talks about like setting time away for creative space or creative time. And then having rituals. He was big on rituals in this. I remember reading that of a signal. The ritual is a signal to his like creativity. So once he sees that this happens, he's almost like Pavloved himself that okay, in the sense like I work out and I know I'm super creative when I work out. So if my creative studio time is at 2 p.m., I'm going to work out right before I go to the studio. So that way I'm in a really good headspace going into there to where whoever I'm working with, they're going to get the best version of me that day that they can get versus me having looming things that I'm thinking about and I'm kind of half-assing it. It's setting those signals up and scheduling things around that to make sure that it's really productive.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. You want to try to structure your day where it's more optimal, but having something that's like totally optimal, it has to be predictable, and that can get boring after a while. I was just talking with my friend the other day about, the Brian Johnson guy, the guy that's like trying to age backwards. He was
That
very very
pod
popular.
goes.
Yes, I would never want to live like that. Like I don't care if I live how many years longer or I do. The guy, you wake up and you take 100 pills of vitamins. You take 100 pills. You eat
You
like
wake up at
rabbit.
5:31
Yeah, you
because
wake up
that's
at
the most optimal
5:31.
time.
You stand in front of your like your sun, your fake sun beam. You take 100 pills. You eat rabbit food. you do the same workout every day, you never leave your house. Where's like that's not a
Where's the
life I
fun?
want to live. Where's the fun? Where's the social interaction? Where's like I don't want you don't want your life to be a controlled lab experiment. There's no you're certainly not going to be creative in that because you're just going to be
It's so regimented.
yeah, it's too regimented.
It's almost miserable. It's so controlled that you're out of control of your own life because you've set this system up for you just to live in to where there's no your bandwidth for living has gone from here down to this, and it's like, well, I could eat this tofu square or I could eat this tempeh square today. That's a lot of choices, but it also makes that person more fragile because they're not able to live outside that bandwidth, and if that's
Right.
broken, they're in shambles. Versus you'll see, some of the most resilient people are the ones who have zero schedule at all. They're
Hmm.
they ride a bicycle to work maybe work every other day because they just can't get there sometimes, and if it happens they're just like, well, I can figure it out something tomorrow, or I'll just get a new job or something. Like, they just don't care. They're I mean, maybe that would probably give me anxiety, but to an extent though, it's like being just open to, like, they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It's all going to be good.
And everyone's going to be at a different spot on that spectrum. Another good
Mhm.
quote from the book he says is there is no wrong way, there is only your way. And that's the best way to put it, I think. You're going to be somewhere on that spectrum of super structured and regimented and with no structure and no regimentation. And whatever works for you, as long as obviously you have a job like most of us, you got to be in a spot where you're going to be able to do your job well. But outside of that, it's really up to what works for you.
What was something from the book that you weren't a huge fan of? It's a really good book,
Ooh,
but obviously there's always pieces where you're like, I just don't know.
something that I wasn't a huge fan of. Let me look through my notes quick.
That's where I'm kind of looking through, and I was like, I was trying to see where I kind of disagreed on something and didn't really like what was coming through from it.
Hmm.
I If you don't have one, I have one for a second.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm gonna find one.
What I'm not a huge fan of is I personally didn't like the phases of the creative process.
Was it too regimented for you?
A little bit, yeah. Like it's one, it's seed gathering, two is experimentation, three is crafting, four is completion. And obviously the way he sets it up is that, you know, each one can last as long as they need to during this entire process. Now, I already found a pinhole in my argument of re-looking at this right now. But like, you have this like stage three, this crafting process where after experimentation, you have gone there, right? And then now you're making whatever it is that you're making. Number four is completion. So you're able to set it off and go later. What I don't like is, and I'm assuming he would probably argue after completion, if you're like, oh, I want to rework this, you push it back to the crafting stage. And it was never really complete. You just kind of lied to yourself. What I don't like is that there is like an end point in that process. Is that I don't know why. It just seems very like you're so free flowy, and then all of a sudden, bang, that's it. You're done.
That's a good point. One thing I got to remember is he's also writing this book through the lens of making music for the most part, and this brings up a good point. I was I've been hooked on that Founders podcast, like I told you, um,
Great podcast.
and the I don't know how I got down this route. You're a Spotify guy, right?
Big Spotify guy.
Yeah, I'm Apple Music. I don't know. I don't know which one's better. I just had it for that long.
We'll let the fans decide.
Yeah.
I need all of our fans who listen on Spotify to go give us a positive review on Spotify. All the fans who listen on Apple Music, go give us a positive review on Apple Music. and we'll see who's more popular. And if you're listening on YouTube, well, subscribe to us and then comment down below which one you prefer.
Jokes on you guys, we win either way. But well, the founder of Spotify basically caught heat for saying that he was basically he was relating music, like artists. He was saying like, oh, like they're content creators, and people were saying like, whoa, 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 like making music is a lot different from like doing a TikTok. It's a lot more, but
Kind of
that's
makes
neither
sense.
a little bit. But I think he was kind of undermining how he's like, oh, your cost, like he basically thought that their cost for making music was should be close to zero, and that like,
Oh, that's crazy.
yeah, and he's like, well, and he's because the thing was like, evidently Spotify pays like shit to its
Yeah.
artists, which I'm sure Apple Music, I don't know if they're much better or if they do pay them at all. I'm sure you could look it up, but he was saying, well, you guys like you can't expect to create music every 3 or 4 years and that for it to be enough. But I think it's also a lot different creating a music album than just putting out an Instagram post. But that's neither here nor there. This guy's writing it through the lens of probably producing music. I don't think in stages when like I'm making like an Instagram post or a podcast or YouTube video. So
Yeah.
maybe if the timeline is extended out, it's a bigger project, maybe it's more worth it to go into those phases. That's what I would think. But yeah, I don't think in those phases. I really just think in like, okay, some days I'll brainstorm. I just want to get a bunch of ideas, and then I may film clips from my training or related to those ideas, and then I make the caption. And if I need to do research to kind of tune up on it in between, or that's really about it. And then it just kind of rolls into the next one. But it's probably a little bit different when you're a musical artist. You're putting out an album. Some people do an album every year. Some people do an album every 2 to 4 years, and then you rest a little bit, and then you go on tour, and then it's not really
While you're
all
on
go go
tour,
go
you're
go
probably
go.
back in that seed gathering phase.
Right, and I'm sure like creating an album or even a song is exhausting. Like I don't know the process, what it all entails, but I'm sure that's a lot more work that goes into that versus just doing a TikTok or a YouTube video.
Yeah. They're definitely
Because once you put that out, like people are going to listen to it or they're not going to listen to it, but you can't like go back and edit that song once you release it. So you want to make sure that
yeah, it's to
it's
the
what you want it to
world.
be.
Yeah.
Hmm.
They are definitely similar to like a content creator in the sense that they
Yes,
make a consumable visual or audible type of thing
right.
that people will either like or dislike, and they're privy to what the perception is from the public. It's kind of talking on like the Spotify creator thing. It's vastly different because it costs way more. You look at just the equipment that's necessary to make high quality music versus a high quality TikTok. High quality TikTok need a ring light and a fucking cell phone.
iPhone, yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
High quality music, you're looking at, $300,000 of studio equipment plus the instruments, mixing.
Yep,
Not everyone's an expert on mixing, so they have to bring in a Rick Rubin. Great
yep. You
name,
got to
by the
pay
way.
for studio time. You got to pay for a producer. You
Yeah.
obviously don't want to go cheap on that stuff because you want people that are going to know how to help bring your art to its best form.
And it kind of goes back, speaking again a little bit more on the owner of Spotify. Like, he's like, you can't expect making an album every 3 to 4 years. This is where I think we get into a little bit of like this, like, it's never enough, this overconsumption of things where it's like, you would, you look at like, I'm trying to think of like a really good, in the sense of like Quentin Tarantino making movies. People can like or not like his movies, but he says, I'm going to make 10 movies because I think 10 is the perfect number. And after that, you should retire. Because what happens is people will continue to make movies and they water down the body of work and this quest for greatness because you make shit just to get shit out.
Yeah.
And so Quentin
How many
Tarantino
he's got?
he's got nine. he's
Okay.
been he's been writing his 10th for forever, but he's stopped vastly and said like I'm done at 10. So, but it's the idea of the work is valuable. The work that you're doing it's a beautiful piece of art, you know? you don't want to continuously just churn stuff out for the monetary sake, when in reality you want to look at it from the sense that if I'm putting my 10 best thoughts out there, he's probably got 50,000 more in the back of his mind. But what he's giving to the American public or the world in this sense is the 10 best ones because he wants to be known as great. You don't want to water that down. It's the same thing when you think about like a music artist who they produce a song maybe every year or an album every 2 to 3 years. If they just churn new ones out every 6 months because that's not enough for you to think that they're monetarily, fiscally, you know, safe to invest in them, they're just going to turn shit out, and then we get the same auto-tune bullshit that we get every day from the modern artists, which now they're turning out songs like that, and it
Right.
waters down. It's not as good.
Right. I
Everyone
think
listens
of
to the classics.
right. NBA YoungBoy has an album out every 6 months, and he has
They'll sound the same.
yeah. And I'm like, I'm not a. I like to listen to YoungBoy once in a while, but there's not a
Same.
ton of differentiation between his music, in my opinion. But I mean, he's found something that works for him. Versus you have someone like Drake who will make an album every or Travis Scott. They're only going to make one every like 3 to 4 years.
Yeah. You look at somebody like Kendrick, same thing. Like he had, Good Kid, Mad City, and then there's a gap after that
Right.
album. Then like To Pimp a Butterfly, I think came out like 4 years later.
Mm-hmm. Of
It,
course, NBA YoungBoy also has like 10 kids, so I'm sure
he's trying to turn out
he's
some money. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
he's trying to get some money, but it's that kind of sense of kind of going back to what we had talked about of like I wasn't a huge fan of that. You're right though. If you stretch that timeline, you're probably going to go through those 4 stages and have that applicable time where it's like, all right, I'm starting my new album. This is
right.
where they're probably listening to their old work. They're probably trying to gain inspiration from other artists, old things, learn what they want that album to sound like before they go into, okay, well, I kind of want to sound, say they listen to a Linkin Park album. They're going to listen to a little bit. They like some of the synth beats in there. They like you know, the the harder kind of drum line on it. Okay, well, what is that? Now they're in experimentation. Well, what does that sound like with me? How does that fit into my sound so it doesn't just seem like I'm hopping from genre to genre, but I'm going to try and integrate it into be more of like a cross genre, but it still sounds like me with my presence. So I don't think we get that in a daily basis in
Right.
like most people in what they do and how they work. Either that or you're only spending, 20 seconds in seed gathering because that's you thinking of, I want to go do this. And then you
Mm-hmm.
kind of go into experimentation and crafting where they mend together. But it's just like the hard completion, which it makes sense with a hard completion on like an album in a music sense that it's going to go out to the public and like completion is completion. You're not going back on that unless you hit them with, oh, we did a remix of this. It's going to
Right.
be that song is out. This remix is a new song.
Mm-hmm.
So
It makes me think whether obviously he had the set stages in there, but whether I should think about finding my own stages and if that would help me make more or better content or be more consistent with it because I don't know. Maybe that's something that I'm not doing. Maybe I need to try it out.
that's
Something, yeah,
I was gonna say that's something I've been thinking of like, obviously everyone wants to make content for whatever reason, whether it is the fame, the possible fortune, or just the aspect of having a body of work of doing something and the commitment to it. You know, Brendan Davies, shout out to him. He did a full 365 days this past year of posting every single day because he said he sucked at it. And talking to him, he's like, I was terrible at doing it. And I said, I'm going to do it for an entire year. And, he stayed committed to it. And he's like, sometimes there was days I just put stuff out to get stuff out. And there's other days where I had a really good idea and had time to do it. And that made me think it's like, you know, we've always talked about this idea of like good people not having shame because they're not afraid. and there needs to be more good people with no shame to do it. And shout out to one of the OGs who's been on the podcast, of John Seaton. He even said, he's like, there's a bell curve of quality versus quantity, and at the start you just need quantity, and as you slowly get up you start to diminish your quantity, and that quality goes up because now you have more production value, you're a better skill set at it, and then it overreaches again, and now you're in this like, it's got to be quality and it's got to be quantity, and you got to keep that going, and if one of them drops, you're screwed. So it's a really interesting thing. And I know we've kind of hopped all over the place when it comes to this, but it's just it's leading me down a rabbit hole. But the creative process and kind of finding that and what our stages are, or like not even just the stages, but the cadence. That's one of those things that I would be personally, like even just for us together on like Bev Boys, I'd be really interested in finding out what that looks like to be the most productive.
Yeah, and that's something that I thought of too. Is you know, for a while we were posting a clip of the podcast every day, and then recently, like I've kind of went to of putting out like 3 to 4 per week, kind of an every other day. And I don't know if either is necessarily right or wrong.
I feel like the 3 to 4 the day has worked for us
I
a
think the
little
three to
bit better.
four for a week, and then I
Or yeah,
want to
sorry, a
try.
week.
Yeah, I think I said day too. I think because that's something that I would like to do. I think this year I probably posted more than any other year, but I
Yeah.
don't think I came close to that one a day. Like I don't know, I maybe probably had, if there was 365 days in the year, I maybe had close to 200, maybe 180, maybe every other day, close to it, maybe a little bit less with Bad Boys post and my personal posts. But I would like to get to a point where it's either, Bad Boys post 3 to 4 days a week, and then me posting 3 to 4 days a week. And I think I just need to have a little less shame and just say, fuck it, put something out there, even if it's just like, this is my training for today. This is what
I
it
think,
was. Because you're right. You do. It's skill. It's repetition. He said that in the book. He says,
yeah,
as we do it more and more, our skills will get better. And he oh wow, there was a really good quote I wrote down.
I
Yeah, he said like something about like, you shouldn't see, we think that the thing that we're making right now is what's going to define us forever. And that's even more ridiculous to think of when you're posting on Instagram or TikTok or
yeah.
something, where a post you can make a really good post, and then 2 weeks from now people will forget that ever even happened. It's not like people will return to certain YouTube videos, and like I think the longer form the content becomes, the more people are likely to return to it. Like I'll return to this book or a really good book and read it 2, 3, 4, 5 times throughout my lifetime. I'm not going to do that for an Instagram post. I mean, I've saved Instagram posts, but I don't really
You go
look
back and
back
look
at
at
my,
them. You look
maybe,
once or
maybe,
twice,
yeah, exactly. Like it's
and it's
not
a
the same
glimpse.
versus like I'll go back to a book I love multiple times, thumb through my highlights, read it again. I'll go back to an album I love from
A
20 years
thousand
ago,
times.
and yeah, thousands of times. Movies, TV shows. Once that the shorter form the content, the less likely people are to return to it. So that's even like less of a reason to think that that's going to define you, because we think that he said we think that the thing that we're working on is going to define us forever. It won't. So you just need to kind of build that skill. And yeah, if you post 365 times in a year, you're probably going to have some shitty posts, but over the year, like
You'll
over
get
the
better.
course of that year, it's going to like that floor is going to raise, you know. Your worst post will be better than your worst in August, will be better than your worst post was in January, February.
There was another piece that kind of goes along these lines, and I think it's super valuable for what we're talking about right now. And that, like, he's very, like I had mentioned earlier in the podcast, like he's very big on embracing the flaws. And the second part of that is like having the artist's like vulnerability within the art. And that's a huge thing. And that's where I kind of think about it in terms of this, where nowadays you always got your guard up because someone's going to say something, or every asshole every asshole's just like an asshole. They all have opinions. You might not want to hear everyone's, but they all got one. But having that vulnerability in there to just continuously do it, and having the self commitment versus like the external validation or the external motivation, but the internal of like, okay, I'm committing to this because if I do this, I can somehow get better in what my end goal is. But I'm going to stick to this process right now versus whatever the immediate or delayed gratification may come from it. The internal gratification of, I set this as my metric, I'm going to continue to go along with it, would be one of those things. It would be, I don't know if I'd have enough to go 365 days like he did, but I would be interested to go after that idea and kind of come
Yeah.
after it.
I mean,
Even
what's
if it's
the
like I have to commit to say 15 a month where it's every other day.
right? I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I mean,
You
people,
fail.
yeah, exactly. And this goes back to our last episode. Like, we think that people are focusing on us a lot more than they are. No one's like, no one's really giving a shit about what you're doing because they're worried about that same problem with themselves. So
Yeah.
there's really no need, and it's such low stakes too. Like, we're not talking about posting super out of pocket controversial stuff that's going to get us fired from our job. It's
No,
not
we're
that.
literally
Like,
posting workouts or ideas
yeah,
that we
we're
have.
posting exercise. Like, it's very low stakes in the scheme of literally everything. You don't need to you don't need to feel you don't need to feel like every there's a really good, I think it was actually, I have this book right here. Um Adam Grant, I believe is his name.
Oh,
Oh, this other
oh,
book right
oh.
here.
Adam Grant,
Just
hold on, hold on. Is it?
I got
Don't
the
tell me.
book. I'm not telling you.
Don't. Oh,
I can't believe it just
hold
happened to
on.
be here
I just
beside.
I just texted about this book. It's by Adam Grant. Hold on.
He's got a couple good ones.
He's got two really, really good ones. Is it either Think Again or is it Hidden Potential?
Yes, it is Think Again. A Hidden Potential is also
I
really
have it
good.
right there.
Yes. So in Think Again, or I don't, it wasn't in Think Again, but I, after I read this book, or maybe it was before, but I listened to a podcast. He was on one of the bigger podcasts. I think it might have been, I think it might have been Huberman or something like that. But he talked about when different types of content he has different types of standards for. He's like, when I'm writing a book, I need that to be like I need that to be like a 9 or a 10 out of 10 for both my standards and I
A
send the rough
publisher, an
right.
editor.
I send the rough draft to a bunch of people that I know are going to give me a straight up opinion. I need that to be at least like an 8 to 9 out of 10 because I know like their standards are probably just as high, if not higher than anyone else's. Like, I need to have a very high standard if it's going to be a book. If I'm making an Instagram post, I'm okay with a 6 or a 7 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the standards don't need to be like, it's no surprise you're going to put more effort into something. Like, for us, like, it would be like a podcast, or if you're going to write like a long article or a blog post, or if you do want to write a book, you're going to put a lot more effort into that versus an Instagram post or a TikTok reel or a YouTube short, something like that, because
The
the
lifespan's
stakes
longer.
aren't yeah this and the stakes aren't as high with the shorter form content, and the lifespan's not as long. Versus if you write a book, you want it to be something that can outlive you ideally and be there for forever.
As a
And you
legacy
see
item.
exactly, and you see this with there's a reason why I think I can't remember who said this, but said basically like artists don't there aren't any like real there aren't as many real authors nowadays because people write books for the prestige and the money. They don't write it to actually like write a book. Versus
Mm-hmm.
when they a lot of there's a reason why classics are the classics and are still read today. Things like they could be novels like Moby Dick, the Odyssey, the Iliad, Jules Verne books, Journey to the Center of the Earth, Around the World in 80 Days. There's a reason why those outlive their authors versus nowadays there's more books being published than there ever have been in history. But you see
The quality
every,
is
every
watered down.
right, and every big business person feels like they need to write a book,
Have
and
a book.
right, and some of them might have ghostwriters, some of them might have it's just not the same. Not to say that there aren't. I think there's still being really good books published today. It's
But
just there's
the
probably also
percentage of
more
is
shitty
that,
books being published today too.
yeah, and a little bit of that is a book now can be a cash grab. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think, like, it's a great way to make monetary value that can last long and continuously sell as, a passive income for people who are maybe at towards the end of their life cycle in a career or whatever it is, and they want to get their ideas out to give to others and obviously make some money off of it. But there's no you go back to, you just say 100 years, right? 1920s to 1960s, you have, or even like the late 1800s, those people who were writing books, they were writing books because that was what their truest passion was. You look at like a Nathaniel Hawthorne, who he wrote kind of like horror-esque books back in the day. I think of, or even like not true mysteries, but they kind of genre bended because they were a little bit of like ghost stories plus like hauntings and stuff like that. Like I think of like the book like House of Seven Gables.
Hmm.
It was one of those books that kind of thought about it like that, to where the passion was writing that book. He wasn't writing that to become a millionaire back
Rich
then.
and famous.
Yeah, he was writing that book because he was like, I have this in his head. He's thinking, I have this beautiful idea, and I want to get it on paper so others can see and visualize my beautiful idea. You think of, like a Moby Dick, where it's these stories that come through to life, and it's just to get that idea out there. There wasn't monetary gain or huge monetary gain. Those books became classics and expanded across the entire world well after that author was gone.
Right.
Those
Or
thoughts weren't there.
I mean, Harry Potter too. Why am I blanking on the author's name? It's not J.R. Tolkien. That's the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings series.
Um,
God, I feel terrible.
oh my gosh, who wrote Harry Potter?
But okay, J.K. Rowling. Yes.
That's who it is. It
But
was I know it was a something something
right,
last
but the
name.
story was like she had a really tough time like selling those, like getting people to publish those books early on,
Hmm.
and she was still writing them, and they obviously became probably one of the most popular movie series of all time. 600 million copies she sold out of those 7 books, which is just absurd.
Well, even oh my god, now I'm blanking even worse. Um, the Hobbit books, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, J.R. Tolkien, I think, right?
Was that J.R. Tolkien?
Let me look.
Yes, that was J.R. Tolkien. Okay.
Yes, I knew it
I don't know
was one
why
of them.
I don't know why I blinked on that. You literally just said it, but like it's the same thing where it was like I have these I dream of these fantasies, but it's not getting picked up by people right away. Same thing with J.K. Rowling. Like she was struggling to sell that first rendition of Harry Potter. These people were
Mhm.
writing these stories to, and obviously, you look at like uh, Harry Potter in the sense of like that was going to be her lifeline because she was extremely poor. I think at one point she may have been homeless, like trying to sell this book, but so there obviously is money influence right there, but she was looking at it as like, I need $100 to get to tomorrow or through the
Right.
week, not I need to become a millionaire. But the stories became a beautiful thing that people loved. And it's just because everyone has a little bit more forethought and a little bit more creativity now to where they can jump in on this. And it's a lot more accessible, which is a great thing for most people. But it's almost like I said, it's watered down. Not to keep continuously hounding on that, but because it's so available to everybody, there's probably still the same like raw amount or gross amount of really good books that could become classics. But because the entirety of that is so large now, the mass percentage has gone down so much.
Hmm. And I
Which
think it's also tough too, because if you write one good book and you want to
they
make like a
want
career as an
another.
author, yeah. And one of my favorite books that I've read is called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It's a very popular book.
Incredible.
It's a very popular book. I think it sold like 20 million copies or something like that. Um, and the author Mark Manson, not many people know, like he wrote another book following that up called Everything is Fucked.
Hmm.
And he talks about, I listened to a podcast with him because I think the reason why The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck was such a good book was because the book talks about like his lived experience about like him trying to find meaning in all these things, and that life experience really poured out onto those pages. And that's the reason why that book was so, it was just so natural and authentic, and that's why I think a lot of people resonated with it. um so the is that your dad, Brian?
Hey, BK Senior's just got to get on the
Yeah,
podcast.
shout out to the OG.
Shout out to the
King of the
OG.
Yeah, fucking king of the castle. Um, but he said like he's like, yeah, like I rode that wave, and then my publisher was like, yeah, I wanted to. He basically said like I rushed that second book. He's like,
Hmm.
I rushed like everything is fucked because like I wanted to ride that wave of, you know, of selling that, have that New York Times bestseller. And he's like, I looking back at it now, like I'm not as proud of it. Like that isn't the product that I would have wanted to put out. But at the time, you're just, it's, you probably have so many voices in your head. Um, and how can you plan for that? Like, oh, you write a book, um, you're not expecting for it to sell that many copies.
There was, oh my God, I might catch flack for this one, but Machine Gun Kelly, I can't remember what song or what album he had, but he talked about in one of his songs, the lyrics are essentially at the start, he wrote about his personal struggle and the pain he endured and, bad relationship with his father, mother dying, his daughter's mother dying, all this, and like that fueled a lot of his like lyrics in what he was writing and being poor and not having anything to try and coming up. And then I think it was like his third album or his fourth album. One of the songs on there basically said like in a sense in one of the lyrics it was my life is so good now that but they don't want me to write about having a good life. They want me to continue to write about having a tough life because that's what sells. They're trying to manufacture pain, and it was him saying, "I'm trying to manufacture pain and perseverance in this right now when my life is good. So I'm almost self sabotaging to create that experience to write it authentically, to where it's this like never ending cycle of that the starving artist or essentially the artist in pain is what is going to sell. They can't live a happy life and write about this stuff. So in order to
It
be
all
relatable, they have to self-sabotage.
Yeah, it almost makes you wonder if that's why, when rappers get very popular and they still end up catching a gun charge, they still like Kodak Black, like he's about to be like on the top of the
Yeah.
mountain, and then every time he was about to be on the top of the mountain, and
In
then
trouble.
yeah, is that because it's ingrained in them because that's how they grew up, or is that because they feel like they like, are you running out of ideas? Because what happens when you become, rich and famous and like you're able to live a good life? You can only rap about how many cars and chains you have for so many songs before you run out of stuff to talk about. I guess
Well,
it's something interesting to
you
think
look at
about.
like Young Thug with his Rico case. It's almost
Are
like
they?
could you not get yourself out of the environment, or was it that you put yourself in the environment to continuously have, quote unquote, like a finger on the pulse, because that was your market, your audience that you were trying to relate to, and you just didn't
Yeah.
want to lose that in a sense because
Do they feel
and
like they're getting too far away from where they came from, and they need to? It's like someone giving advice. It's like if you ask someone for advice that like they've done what you're trying to do, but it's been so long, and the environment they did it in is so different that they can't even remember what it was like to be in that position.
you know everyone makes the joke of like the boomer telling you how to get a job and like just go in there and shake their hand, they'll give you a job right away,
Right.
which like in a sense like they're not wrong, they're just out of touch because
It
they
was
don't
just a
understand that
different
that's not
reality.
that's how it was, to where it's now, in the same sense of like making this music where it's like well, they were in this, they experienced this is what they're writing about, but they've already told that story to where it's really hard for them to relate back. So they need another story to tell, and I think it sucks for artists, and maybe, I don't know, it could be the label itself telling them, like, you need to write another album about pain. Like, you better figure something out, because we all know we've seen the Instagram reels, the YouTube documentaries, the excerpts from how bad the record industry is, where they pull the artist into debt and they have to pay their fees, and then they take everything out and the artist yields like 1% of whatever it is. But all this stuff, kind of going back to like this kind of creative process that the artist goes through, that for the most part, it doesn't sound like Rick Rubin had to kind of go through as much of that, because I don't want to say he's on the record label side. He's not necessarily, but he's more of like, it's record label artist, and then he's over here. He's not directly on that. He's getting paid to make like produce the music that the artist, makes, performs, writes, etc. So he's maybe not as privy, and to a sense, ignorance is bliss. But he's not having experienced that. So he gets the more freeing aspect of this without the pressure, where he's like, they call me in, they say, I want to make something beautiful. I get to make something beautiful. And then I'm kind of done. Which, to a sense, I mean, that was kind of Dr. Dre. He performed with NWA for, I think they had a 4 or 5 year career. They had one huge album, which was Straight Outta Compton. They had a mixtape I think that was just NWA and Friends before that. And he produced Easy E's. And then he said he just wanted to be a little bit more free and do his own thing. Obviously, he went to Death Row, worked with Suge Knight. The movie Straight Outta Compton portrays it as one way, where he just didn't like what was going on there. And he said he wanted to do his own thing. You can keep your artists. And then he brings on guys like Eminem. He brings on, he produced Snoop Dogg's album at Death Row, but all this stuff, 50 Cent was with him at Aftermath Records. But, he slowly removed himself to where he got the pure aspect of creativity and creating, versus having to be ingested in the shit, which I think a lot of people that A, have the talent, and B, have the opportunity to do, they'll slowly remove themselves into doing that. But it allowed them to be more free and more creative without having the pressure. Obviously, there's still some pressure, but you're not like, if I don't make this, I'm going to be in debt to them for $2 million because they fronted this money for the studio time. He is the studio. So there is something to be said about that, to where it's like, the whole book kind of makes me think about this, where it's like, how much pressure has to be relieved in order to be truly creative? Or is it the flip side, where it's the pressure makes diamonds, and putting yourself in that more high stakes situation will force you to have to go all in on this and make something beautiful? What do you, I don't know, like that's my take, is like, those are probably the two like buckets that you kind of have, where it's like, when you're less involved with the outcome, you're more able to be involved with the process and what the end product will look like, because you just want the most pure thing to go forward. Or is it that because you're liable for the outcome, you have to make something good?
Yeah, that brings up another good point from the book that I remember about deadlines. And like, he talks about momentum and deadlines. And, to me, like, deadlines create that pressure. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with deadlines. Like, I hate them, but like, I also
like them.
Yeah, if someone puts a deadline in front of me, like, I'm gonna get it done. Like, I think back to school, like, I was never someone that finished assignments early. I just couldn't do it. I always submitted them on the day they were due. I rarely, if ever, submitted an assignment late, but I was never the guy like, oh, like, I finished my paper a week early or 2 days early. Like, I just couldn't do that. And it's, what is it, Parkinson's law, where the time allowed, like, the task expands to the time allowed.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone told me to get it done in 2 weeks, I get it done in 2 weeks. If someone told me to get it done in 2 days, I get it done in 2 days. It's just those deadlines, however stressful they are useful. But what's that balance of having the pressure of the deadlines versus having enough time to make like good work too? Because you can get, I don't
You
know,
can get
you don't
some
want to get
shitty work
pressure.
on that.
You're right. You don't want to get pressured into doing like shitty stuff. But that's something, because he's clear about like the goal is to make the best work that we can produce. Says, okay, yeah, the artist's goal is not merely to produce, but to make the finest work they're capable of. The artist thinks in terms of timeless excellence, while crafting make deadlines for your own motivation, not necessarily to be shared with others unless it helps with accountability. I think that could be a good one. Like, I mean, that's it right there. If you want to post every day, obviously you have a 24-hour deadline for each one. You don't need to share that with anybody else. Crafting contains a paradox. To create our best work, we're patient and avoid rushing the process, while at the same time we work quickly without delay. That's another really good line. You want to work without wasting a bunch of time. It reminds me of the John Wooden quote, like, be quick but don't hurry. You don't
Yeah.
want to waste time, but you're also not rushing stuff out just to say you got something done. You're not just checking a
Yes.
box.
The other one, it's right around the same spot in the book. It might be within like 2 or 3 pages, but I wrote this one down because it hit home, and maybe this is a good one to kind of like wrap up our review on it. But it said the artist's only responsibility is to the work itself. There are no
Mm-hmm.
other requirements. You're free to create that you will, or what you will. It's essentially saying, kind of hand in hand with yours. It's like, be obviously timely with your work, but like don't feel like you have to rush it to get the quickest thing out to get it out there. Make something beautiful. Like the only responsibility that the artist has is to build something that they're proud of.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to like it's when we talk about this in the sense of like a content, put content out that you want to put out there.
Right.
If you set your personal deadline of like I want to post every day, just to kind of go back on this in a sense, make that deadline for yourself, but make something each day that you're proud of. Don't put something out there or change what you're going to do to cater to somebody else, because if that's not your voice, you don't have to say that. It's the same way as when an artist doesn't, they want you to make a pop album, but you're not a pop singer. You're a rapper.
Right.
Make a rap album. Make a poppy rap album, but make it a rap album. I think Bring Me the Horizon is a great. They're my all-time favorite band. I've seen them in concert a couple of times. I love them. But what they did is they said we don't want to be the heaviest pop album. We want to be the poppiest metal album to make it approachable for new fans, because that's what we want. And every time their fans, quote unquote, I'm a fan, so I'm like whatever they put out, I'm gonna listen to. But people would get so mad. They're like, "Why don't you go back to the old stuff?" I'm like, "We don't want to make that. We've matured as artists, and we want to make this." They don't owe it to us to make this, that, or the other. They don't have to make Sempiternal that they made in 2014. They don't have to make that again. They can make Amo. They can make Next Gen Revival. Whatever it is, they can make all these musics that they're proud of. You choose not to listen to it. If you don't want to support it, then don't listen to it. But don't get mad at them for finding the next step in their creative process, their journey of what they want to perform and what they want to play. Because otherwise, you're going to tell them you got to make this. They're going to go out there and they're going to not like it. They're not going to feel authentic. They're not going to put as much work or passion into this work, and it's not going to come out right. And then you're not going to be happy anyway. You're going to bitch about it.
Yeah. And he states in the book, he says, you have to make work and art that's true to you, because if you have like a predetermined audience or a predetermined goal or what you want to say in mind, it's not going to come out very good, and people are going to be able to see that too. It's just not going to
Mm-hmm.
be. It's better just to create what's true and authentic to you, and the audience will come later, and then it's more natural. You're not trying to put on a facade and be create as someone you're not in order to you know put on a front.
It's almost like the sense of like when you see a movie that is very heavily leaning into like a specific message that they're trying to portray.
Mm-hmm.
The movie itself wasn't the goal. the goal was to get that message out or whatever it was, versus like create something. You can include that, whatever it may be, include it into the inner workings of the movie, but make the movie something that people will love, because
Right.
that's the goal of making, say, a movie or whatever it is. And that message will probably go further and longer lasting, because that it becomes this cult classic or this instant classic, whatever it is, that people are continuously watching it. And those subtexts in there, those will carry on because more people are watching it and they've grown to love that. What's the number one thing? People will watch a movie, they see this person is super charismatic or they're super thoughtful. The next day, they're so juiced up about that, they want to exuberate that behavior. Yeah, great. With kids, they watch Power Rangers, they want to go be a Power Ranger. They want to do the same thing that a Power Ranger does. They want to stand up for the little person. They want to be polite to everybody. They don't want to resort to violence. They want to this, that, and the other, and they want to wear a fancy suit.
Yep.
But those lessons that are in there behind it are in there so that it helps formulate. It's like all the children's kind of stuff where they watch Bluey or they do this, or Blue's Clues, where
Mm-hmm.
it's like figuring everything out before you jump to a conclusion, or trying to understand the people around you before you judge them, or whatever it is. Those lessons can be hidden behind it under layers, and it'll carry on instead of just being like, that's what it is.
Right. When you watch a movie and it's clear that the movie isn't the main thing, it's just like trying to get you to think a certain way,
Yeah.
then it's not something you usually want to go back to.
No, and it ruins the experience of the movie on that. And it's like, you can accomplish both, man. Just make something beautiful that people will continue to watch.
Right.
You can do both. I've seen great movies that do both. You know, you've seen ones with like undertones of like racism and what it's like. I think of like Boys in the Hood. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a big NWA fan, so like Ice Cube, like Boys in the Hood is a great movie in that. But you mentioned that movie to almost 50% of the United States population, they've probably seen it and they're like, oh, yeah, that's a good movie.
Yeah.
You know? But there's those undertones where you can learn those lessons and see like, fuck that, maybe change this behavior or do this or that, or whatever it is. But the movie itself carried over. And the
Mm-hmm.
art can speak to the lessons versus the lessons speaking to the art.
It's a good way to put it. Yeah.
I love this
Yeah.
book.
Yeah. Very, very good book. I think you need one more thing I want to share. Is just like gave a quick like 4-step process for like, I think this is kind of like the creative process, like abbreviated. Do your best. It says, do your best work, share it, start the next one, and never look back. I can get down with that. Like, do your best work, put it out there. Don't be afraid. Get on to the next one. Don't dwell on it, and don't think about like, oh, was that last one good enough? Just get on to the next one. And I think more people need to,
Live by that.
yeah, and just more people need to create for creation's sake, not for, oh, I'm gonna try to get TikTok famous, this and that. Do it. I was talking about this similar thing on, when I went on the Iowa Strength podcast. Like, do it. If it's nothing else than to kind of document your own life. Do it for no one else but yourself. And if you end up helping people along the way, that's great. And maybe if you have the want to help people, obviously you can keep that in mind, but keep the work at the center of it, like putting out good work that's true to you. And it's tough to go wrong, and it's tough to go astray with that. So yeah, good ass book. That Boys Book Club. Starting off with a banger.
I love it. We should do these every couple of episodes. We'll find our next book, but this is a good one. It For me, I think it's a great a great way to start our year strong.
Hundred
Put
percent.
ourselves in a good mindset of like creativity. I think we get on here and we talk every week, but this is a creative thing for us. We get on here and we
Mm-hmm.
bring ideas to the plate, discuss it, iron them out. I mean, most of the time, it's completion when we send it out to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, but
That's right.
it's crafting and seed gathering as we kind of go through this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm all in, man. This was awesome.
Yeah,
I
dude.
think
Shout
I
out
think we should
Rick
do
Rubin.
another. I got a couple books. Think Again is on my list. I think Hidden Potential by Adam Grant as
Yeah,
well is another one that I really want to get into. Um, his books just seem very aligned, I think, in what I like to read, and a lot like the creative act. Um, so I think that might be one that we chase in the future, but
yeah,
for sure.
man, for sure.
Give me that review. I got a little cup now, a different cup.
Yeah, man. The time flew by talking about that awesome book, but this is an awesome drink too, man. It does remind me a lot of the Rain, like lemon head, lemon drop flavor, except obviously with a lot more nootropics. Obviously, Gorilla Mind is kind of like the Bev Boys, like the darling of the Bev Boys, that and Ghost and Bum Energy, I would say. I still think the black cherry vanilla is probably my favorite flavor of really anything right now, but especially Gorilla Mind, followed by the strawberry candy. Dude, this might be, I
Top
don't
three.
know
It's
if,
top three for me for sure.
yeah, this might slide into that three spot depending on how I'm feeling about, the watermelon candy. That blue raspberry one, sneaky good. Sneaky good. That's probably rounding up a top five. But I gotta give this one a very strong rating. It might crack like the end of the top five of my top five drinks right now. Even like it's getting up there. I'm gonna have to give it a. I'm gonna have to give it a 9.3, man. A 9.3. Very
I
good.
was
Very good.
I was just mouthing 9.1. That's awesome.
Yeah, very good. I think it's right close with like I think the iced tea lemonade ghost is probably I like it a little bit better, but not by much. That's probably like a 9.5, and then that perfect 10 or close to it is probably going to be that black cherry vanilla for me, Gorilla Mind. That and the strawberry candy, like a 9.8. Yeah, really, really good drink. Really good drink. Would definitely recommend the Gorilla Mind Lucky Lemon.
Good caffeine, great nootropics, fantastic flavor. The only thing that holds it back is can we stop doing a heat sealed can?
Yes, 100%.
Ugh. Well, you guys, that was our book review for Bev Boys. Obviously, like us on Instagram, follow us on Instagram. That is bevboys.tv. Obviously, our personals, we've said them 1,000 times. We don't need to
Yeah,
say it. We're
we don't need
starting a
to
new
do
year
that shit
strong.
anymore.
We're not even going to say it. Starting a new year, we're not even going to say our personals. Go find us. You can find us via bevboys.tv. Follow us on YouTube or follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review. It really helps us move up the charts. That way, we can stop being mediocre and move into just mid. Then you can subscribe to us on YouTube. Drop a comment down below if there's another book or something you guys want to see us talk about. We absolutely love this. I'm so glad that we get to start year 3 doing this now.
Yeah, crazy to think we're in year number 3, but it's all thanks to you guys. So shout out you guys.
Shout out to them.
Yeah. But as always, stay tuned for another episode next week. Appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Peace.